So this thing just arrived. It's straight off AliExpress, so the quality is yet to be determined. It was designed by 9995. It's not licensed or made by Nintendo, so they probably shouldn't be using this logo here. But this is an LCD screen for the Japanese version of the Super Nintendo, the Super Famicom. There wasn't a lot of information in the listing, so I don't know if it will work with other region Super Nintendo consoles, and we're gonna test that, but first I wanna see if it even works on a Super Famicom. Other than trademark infringements, in this bag we've got a screwdriver, which is kind of worrying. I don't know why we would need one, and a USB-C, probably power-only cable. Yeah, no data pins connected. I like that it's bubble wrapped, that's good. We even get a fancy, very disposable bag, and inside is the screen itself, and that is 3D printed. They've used a textured print bed, so it looks kind of legit, but you can see the print lines on the hinge here, and the texture doesn't go up the sides. They have put felt in here so that it doesn't scratch your console though. I really do like that. On the back, we've got 2 speakers, so it might actually have stereo sound. We've got our USB-C power connector, which is what this cable's for. 5 unlabeled buttons, and it didn't come with a manual. A short AV cable to plug into the console. The cable feels kind of chunky, so they might be using a decent video signal instead of the bare minimum. We'll take the back off and have a look later on. There's also a strange cavity here with a couple of screw holes. I'm really not sure what that's for, and I can't see anything that this flat screwdriver is supposed to be for. The only thing I can think of is to tighten the hinge screws, although they're Phillips head and this is a flathead screwdriver. Wow, that slides on nicely actually. A little bit wobbly, but you're not really moving this around a lot. Does it close up? Well, that's as far as it wants to go. It kind of closes up. Oh, okay. It turns on as soon as you plug the USB in. The console's not connected to anything, and the screen only has power. Ooh, we've got a menu. This is all pretty normal LCD kind of stuff, except this mode Sys3. I have no idea what that means. I'm not going to touch anything just yet, though. Let's see how it plays. Oh, SV. It must be S-Video and NTSC. Yes, because it is. All right, speakers are a little bit tinny, but they are there. The sound does work. Colors are pretty nice. The chainsaw in the background is pretty nice, too. It doesn't really feel like there's any input lag. I'm sure there is, but the fact that I can't tell, I'm happy with that. I am wondering if I can get rid of these black bars though. Oh no, look, this is the geometry one here. If I choose it, it skips and goes to the next one. I can't change the geometry. There is a mystery button at the back here. What does that do? Seems to go away and come back. I don't know. It does the go away and come back. Ooh, did you see that little glitchy thing that happened just then? I think this LCD does something weird with a frame every now and then. It's definitely not a major issue though. The viewing angle is not the most amazing, but it's not too bad either. The hinge is a little bit loose, and this screwdriver isn't fat enough to give you enough torque to turn the screws to tighten it, so that's gonna just stay the way it is. What about other versions of the Super Nintendo? Super Famicom Junior doesn't really fit very well, and I suspect we're only gonna get sound. Yeah. Back in the analog video days, the OG connection method was via RF, which you had to tune into your TV. That's because TVs were only designed for watching TV, and anyone that made a device to connect to a TV had to work around that. But having to tune your devices into a TV station isn't very user-friendly, so later on, composite video came onto the scene. It's basically the same as the RF signal, but before it gets turned into a fake TV station. Almost every game console worldwide between the RF generation and the HDMI generation used composite video as the default output. That's not to say they weren't regional variants of composite video, but it was still composite video. But there are some video formats that are better than composite video. The next step up is S-Video. A lot of TVs only supported composite video, a lot of game consoles only supported composite video. But this LCD has been wired up via S-Video for a better signal. However, the Super Famicom Junior is one of those consoles that only outputs composite video. Getting rid of S-Video was part of the cost cutting on the slimmer design. So the American SNES Junior is gonna be the same story. The full-size American SNES might have a chance, but it doesn't fit on there. We're just gonna have to sort of sit it up the back here. Hey, there we go. If this had a different 3D printed base, it would work perfectly fine on the American Super Nintendo. Maybe numbers could make a US SNES version too. Now here's one that'll be interesting. It fits perfectly. This is a PAL version Super Nintendo, which is what Australia and most of Europe got. I'm not sure if the PAL version Super Nintendo outputs S-Video, and I'm not sure if this monitor supports PAL video. Hey, wow, it works fine. Seems a bit jittery. The scrolling doesn't seem very smooth. I'm gonna plug this into my CRT monitor and see if it's the same. Nah, that's scrolling smooth, so the monitor's introducing some jittery scrolling effect. Yeah, it's actually pretty gross. I don't like that. So yes, it does work. It's not the best. It's still playable. I don't know what this Sys3 mode is. Oh, I've got different choices. What, Sys4? Oh dear. Okay. Oh no, I'm out of it now. Oh, I've got to do it in mirror vision. You know what? Why don't I play it backwards, huh? I have to press right to go left, but the jump's the same. If I speed run it, it shouldn't make too much difference to me, right? It's so weird playing Mario backwards. What about just straight up normal upside down? This is actually not quite as hard as I expected it to be. I thought I would really struggle. Oh. I mean, I'm struggling a little bit. So obviously this mode here is so that you can use this LCD in different devices or with different orientations or whatever. It is just a generic LCD in a 3D printed case after all. And now that I think of it, this thing is very similar to my little 8-inch test monitor, except I've got all the inputs on the bottom of here. If we jump into both the menus, they're obviously different versions, but yeah, they're from the same manufacturer. So what do we have inside? Hehehe. Yeah, this is a handmade project, and I actually like that. Straight up floating on top, we've got an extension for the LCD ribbon cable so that it reaches the driver board. I feel like there's probably enough room where this could have been mounted somewhere for this ribbon to fit directly into here without the extension, but I guess there must have been a reason. It costs more money to do it this way. The LCD driver board is actually HDMI, so this is an S-video to HDMI adapter. It actually looks like this does support composite video, it's just there's no wire through to the AV connector, but at least that means they could make a version for the junior consoles, they just need a different cable. Oh, I broke the zip tie. The USB-C power port on the back just has some wires soldered to a micro USB connector and another USB-C connector, which I guess is fine. It only needs 5 volts, so that's what they've given it. Heat shrink would have definitely been a bit nicer than electrical tape and zip ties. In my experience with HDMI adapters, these switches are usually to switch between 720p and 1080p on the HDMI output. It won't actually increase any quality because the output from the Super Nintendo is way lower than that, but sometimes an LCD screen will prefer one or the other, so you can choose. I can see something down here that I'm a little bit worried about. It seems they've got 5 volt connected from the AV port. There is a diode here which acts like an electrical one-way valve, and it stops this board from feeding 5 volts back into the Super Nintendo, but I think I just figured out why it says attention, DC power must be connected before gameplay, because if I ignore that, I expect this is going to turn the whole thing on, and the Super Nintendo can't power it. It just can't do it. As a test, I've just disconnected that wire that I think is causing the problem. Everything still works, except now when you lose power on the monitor, it doesn't just boot loop the whole thing and strain your Super Nintendo. So if you're the one who's building these things, you should probably just cut this brown wire when you're assembling it. It'll save a lot of problems. Of course, we've got to try the HDMI, don't we? Look at this, I get to use my stick extension. Nothing like plugging your stick into something new. Even this homemade thing works without being purple. Stupid garbage monitors. The only problem with playing the game stick on this monitor is that this monitor is a 4:3 ratio, and it doesn't know that it's not a widescreen monitor. So whatever you display on it is squished in, which is fine for the Super Nintendo, which is designed for this aspect ratio, but anything else is going to be squashed. I got a lot of comments about this game on my GameStick video. I'd never heard of it before, and I just skimmed past it in the list. In fact, Fred Wood himself commented, and I had a bit of a chat with him. I promised I'd give the game a go, and now I'm doing it. And now I'm dead. Oh, I get 100 lives. Oh dear. I love that you can manually set the checkpoint anywhere you like. That is incredible. The gameplay controls are super simple. You've got jump, directions, that's it. The other controls are just create the spawn point and go back to the spawn point with a sacrificial life. Like this. So I guess it's kind of a suicide button. Oh dear. 100 lives felt like a lot to begin with, but yeah, I can see why. What is this? Is this wind or something? Oh, it's just slow falling. That's fun. Oh man. Oh, what's in there? Oh, it's the contamination. Oh, that's actually really cool. Okay. I'm nearly out of lives. 4 lives. How though? I did bad. But yes, I can definitely see why people commented about this game. It's really good. One thing I'd really hoped to be able to use this LCD screen for is my homemade Nintendo PlayStation. This should fit onto it properly, but I only wired up composite video on the back. It's not to say I can't make it work though. I just need to do a little bit of wiring, plug this in the back of here, and hopefully this slides on here? It does. The disc isn't even completely obscuring it either. And hopefully I'm right about this thing supporting composite video as well. Yeah, oh, yeah? Yeah! Wow, I don't remember the frame rate being this low on the PS1 version of Tony Hawk's 3. I also noticed there's this headphone jack in the back here. I'm gonna plug my desktop speakers into it and see if it works. Ugh. Yeah, it does, and wow, that sounds better. Ready to go back to these? Yeah, not as good. There was actually an official LCD screen for the Slim PS1, so this abomination is actually pretty fitting. I'm really glad this works. And that's it, a brand new LCD screen for the Nintendo Super Famicom. It's homemade and the design could use a bit of tweaking, but for its intended purpose, it actually works fine. The aspect ratio is actually correct, which is a big plus for me. There are a lot of lazy designers out there who just use a widescreen LCD for retro consoles. It means the picture's all stretched and doesn't look right, but this actually looks great. And if you're a bit of a tinkerer like me, there are some more features hidden inside the case that you can play with. If you want ad-free early access to my videos, you can join me on Floatplane for $2.50 a month. I'm also a massive video game collector, and I post photos of every single video game thing that I get. And there's even a $1 tier if you only want the photos. The link's in the description, I'll see you there.